Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the podcast. Today, my guest is Travis Brun. He is the veteran ambassador for Valors Veterans Community. It is a nonprofit organization designed to help veterans who are getting out of the service acclimate to civilian life, helping them with job detail, helping them out with simple life skills, and just helping them acclimate to careers and hopefully jobs of their own. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the episode. All right. What's up, Travis?
What's going on?
How you doing, man?
Good.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me. This is amazing.
You like it?
Oh, this office is awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's something to be jealous of.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, so you reached out to us. You're local, which is great. We love doing local outreach, love talking to people who are in the area. I want to hear, the way we start these off, I want to know about you. I want to know your backstory. Sure. And I want to know what it is you're doing. And I want to hear, obviously, about your program.
Yeah, so we always call it the elevator pitch. So just a little bit about me. Born and raised here in Arizona, Chandler Pride. Turned 18, got tired of the color brown in the desert, so I joined the Army. And unfortunately, the Army sent me to other people's deserts.
Yeah.
So I did that for about 8 years, and I just discovered, like, you ever go to, like, a terrible restaurant, and you're like, the restaurants back home are way better. Arizona's my way better terrible restaurant.
Ooh, okay, I like that. Yeah.
So I came back here in 2015, planted roots, tried to do the cliche thing of going from the military to the law enforcement side of things. Was a police officer for a little while with DPS in Lake Havasu. It started to become kind of not my favorite, and that's one of those jobs, like, you got to eat, breathe, and sleep it. If you don't wake up every day and you're like, this culture is my life, get out, because it will eat you alive. Yeah. So I had a buddy of mine that reached out to me from Fort Huachuca, which is coming from Havasu to Fort Huachuca is going from one end of Arizona all the way down to the other end.
Fort Huachuca, have you ever heard of that? Where is that?
Sierra Vista.
Oh, okay.
So it is
side to side, yeah.
Spitting distance on the border.
Yeah.
And it was a completely different world for me, which is cool because the one thing that I preach about Arizona is no matter what kind of landscape you want, what kind of seasons there is, we have it. You just need to tell me where you want it. You know, if you want snow, go to Flagstaff. You know, you want the mountains, go to Show Low. Yeah. If you want Tatooine from Star Wars, you go to Yuma.
That's good.
Like, we have it all. You just need to know where to look. You know, you want to get mugged, go to Tucson. But
It is funny how there's only one perception of, and it's, I think, the same for just about everywhere. You think Colorado, you think big snowy mountains. There's all sorts of different sides of Arizona that people don't realize. And what's funny is when people think Arizona, often they think Phoenix. Yeah. And I'm like, no, dude, Phoenix, that's terrible. Like, we stay out of Phoenix. We don't go to Phoenix. But yeah, okay. So you went from one side to the other.
And yeah, so I ended up at the Regional Cyber Center for the DoD, Department of Defense. And they built me up. They taught me the skills that I needed to build an IT career, from the trenches, the help desk, all the way to cyber network and defense, which was great. The one bad thing about it was everything there is contract based. So when your contract is up or your contract gets bought out by another company, you're unemployed, which is beautiful. Like, wonderful times. So
sounds horrible.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. So I had a friend of mine up here that was running a nonprofit for veterans. And he was like, dude, you need to come up here. You need to go back to school and take all that education that the Cyber Center had taught you and put it on paper. So he brought me up. When we were working with that organization, I was going to school, they went from a nonprofit over to this business enterprise, which is like, it's kind of an oxymoron to have a nonprofit that has business values and goals of, you know, generating revenue. But apparently this happens a lot.
Oh yeah.
To where these nonprofits start becoming less about the message and more about, you know, how many seats are we filling, or how much cash are we taking in.
Closer to a business than a nonprofit.
Exactly.
How much of the money really gets to the people or whatever it is.
Exactly. And when you have that mindset, you're just like, this is no longer about the business. So we went down to the Secretary of State and we filed a 501c probably 2 days later, and that was the birth that was the first incarnation of Valors Veterans Community.
Okay. Awesome.
And initially they had started out as veteran ambassadorship. The biggest thing about the military is when you terminate your service, when your contract is up, you're kind of done. You know, there's nobody that's going to help you out on, hey, where to go next? Hey, what kind of resources are offered to you? If you go on Google and you're just like, I just got out of the military, what do I do? Google has like 200,000 things that you could do, and nobody boils them down to be like, all right, cool. All I have to do is fill out this piece of paper, or all I have to do is write this essay, and I got a grant for X, Y, and Z. So that's how we started, and then we started getting into the engagement and networking side of things. So pre-COVID, we were doing about 3 to 4 events a week. And events could vary from going out to Harkins and catching a early screening preview of movies, which I'm a huge cinephile, so that was like a big one for me. Or it was just, go out to a cookout in the park just to make sure that, you make face-to-face contact with all these guys and you make sure that they're good.
I'm sorry, I'm a bit confused. How does going to a movie, you're going there to meet veterans?
Yeah, you take other veterans as a group.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So like the picture on our website right there, that is us meeting at Monster Jam. And that's a high praise for me. There was about 100 veterans and their families.
Awesome.
That we got to take out to Monster Jam. And not only did we get to take them to the event, but we got to take them to the pit party, pre-show, which is the coolest thing ever. The one below that, as you guys can see, that is our Honor the Brave 5K. Arizona is very fitness related.
It is.
And it's, again, one of those things, like if you don't know where to look, you don't see it. But there's 5Ks happening year round. There's triathlons going on. Well, right now it's triathlon season, so you'll catch us out helping the aid stations at Ironman. I grew up in a cycling background, so we got Chandler BMX down there on Friday nights. I take the kids. On Sundays, we're out doing group rides with mountain bikes on South Mountain or Santan, depending on where everybody's at.
Okay.
The biggest thing for me is, and you'll hear me say it all the time, is complacency kills. When you go from doing everything from 06 to 1700 a day, 5 p.m.
Structured, yeah.
Yeah, and now you're not doing anything. And, the pandemic kind of killed it with everybody, staying at home. And it's like, I don't know, where everybody's at. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sitting at home. I got nothing to do. And that gets dangerous. And that's not even a veteran thing. It's just real common in veterans, but that's a big thing all around. So getting out there and getting those people, networked, engaged, asking those simple questions of, hey, what are you planning to do with your life? What resources do you need? Are you going back to school? Like, do you have money to go back to school? Do you need money to go back to school? Do you have groceries? Some of these hard questions that you got to ask just to make sure that, everybody's straight and everybody's good. And a lot of these organizations, they count the numbers and, they'll throw it up. Oh, we helped, thousands of veterans, but they'll never say how.
Yeah.
I'm all about the end result. I'm all about, hey, there's one picture up on our Instagram right now of, hey, I'd like to get into cycling, but I don't have a bike. Cool. Spartan Rides AZ over in Chandler, Alma School in Elliott. They're a veteran-owned and operated bike shop. We got with them. They got a whole bunch of bikes that we've recycled and we've given to veterans.
What's the company called?
Oh, wow.
Spartan Rides.
Spartan Rides.
Yeah.
And they're in Chandler?
They're in Chandler.
Cool.
Alma School in Elliott and Alma School in Queen Creek Road.
Gotcha.
And like I said, they were amazing with helping out with that. So,
okay, so you host events, you help with networking,
correct,
and you create job opportunities. Is that fair to say?
Job resources.
Job resources.
Yeah.
So if somebody needs student loans, or if somebody wants to get some kind of a grant, or someone wants direction on how to operate their banking, is this, you guys are kind of just there as a resource providing this information for people?
Correct.
And I can understand why. When you come from a very highly structured but also highly intensive and very, very high stress situation, or life situation like being in the military, and then you're all of a sudden, we have a family member who kind of went through this, you're dropped back into society.
Yes.
I know that can be a bit of an odd, because now everything, like the volume's like turned way down back here compared to how it was, especially if you were actually overseas serving in, you know, another Tatooine.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's really stressful. Now you're back here, now you're expected to figure out how to, you know, acclimate with people who've never done anything like that. And they're not used to that high level of stress and that high energy environment. So I can only imagine the difficulty that lies. What would you say are the most common problems that veterans face when they do come out of that situation and they come back? What's the most common thing people do ask you for?
Typically it's always school resources, that and resume building. I am not the best at resume building, but I have a resource that is, and he doesn't mind taking a Saturday morning out and helping these guys, you know, build up their resume, because you get this small block of instruction for about an hour right before you get out of the military of how to write a resume. Mm-hmm. And it's legitimately like, just copy and paste what you did. Well, like for me, I worked EOD, Explosive Ordnance Disposal. If I was going to go apply for a job in IT, they're going to look at it and go, hey, that's cool, you took bombs apart. That has nothing to do with IT.
Yes.
Yeah.
But through the process of verbal judo, you could take it apart and dissect it however you like and throw those key terms that they're looking for in of, I'm great with disassembly of hardware. I'm, you know, wonderful on electric diagram analysis, which is true, but, you know, you just got to break it down that way. And that's the big one for me. We've gotten so many individuals that, you know, they've been in a job for a little while as a veteran that they immediately got out of when they joined the military, and now it's gone. And they're like, I don't know how to write a resume. Nobody ever taught me. I just kind of slipped from one job to another.
Yeah.
What am I doing? Or federal resumes. Federal resumes is another one. There's a whole big standard on how to write a federal resume.
There's a difference. I've never written either. I assume there's a. It's funny. You probably wrote a federal resume, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it different than a normal? What's a normal prison resume called? I mean, other than a federal, is it just called a resume
or
and then
a CV or a resume?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
To where a federal resume is a little bit more in depth. It's got a little bit more information to it. Especially coming out of the military, a lot of veterans don't know that they have these, you know, security clearances, or they're eligible for these security clearances just based on their prior service. And normally, you know, they just let it expire because they don't know they have it. If I can scoop up an Air Force vet that has a secret security clearance, even though he doesn't know that he has it, I can get him placed within a contract within 2 to 3 weeks, which is amazing.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah, you know,
what's also amazing is they wouldn't know they had it. Does that happen?
That happens a lot. Sometimes you're doing some stuff on your end, and then on the back end, you're not realizing what all goes into that.
You don't even know that you have a security clearance.
Yeah.
So you're just doing something.
You're doing what you know.
Yeah.
You're doing what you're taught. You know, just like me. I was 18 and I didn't know. Like, I knew what I was doing, but I didn't know, like, on the civilian side of things, how to incorporate that into an actual career field.
Yeah. This seems like something that should be implemented while in the service. There should be some kind of this is all entirely foreign to me. I know nothing about this, which is what I love, is talking with people about things I don't know. It seems to me that it should be some kind of a mandatory, especially if you're about to get out.
Yeah.
If you've served 4 years, okay, for the last 3 months of these 4 years, we need to put you through this curriculum that's going to show you how to live like a civilian.
Like I said, they have a 12-hour block of instruction. In that 12 hours, they teach you how to write a resume, how to balance a checkbook. Swear to God, that's one. What to look.
Still didn't learn that.
What to look for when applying for a job, like how to negotiate your salary, which doesn't happen anymore.
Right. Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. And it's like, it's check the block. It's like, look, we did this. You don't have to say, you know, we didn't give you the resources. But in reality, it's, you know, 12 hours of PowerPoint. I don't know about you guys, but if I look at a PowerPoint for longer than 5 minutes, I'm out.
Nothing. Yeah.
I'm thinking about what I'm doing tomorrow, what I'm eating for lunch, everything but that PowerPoint.
Yeah.
So,
how much is connecting veterans with federal jobs like usajobs.gov?
A good probably 20 to 25%.
Okay.
So a lot of these guys, they get out of the military and they're like, I want nothing to do with the government.
Yeah.
And then there's other ones that are like, I could still do my job, but I could get the civilian counterpart pay. And I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
Is there any, this is kind of just coming to me,
Yeah.
because of where we're at today, where everything is going, the impact that social media will have on someone's basically acting as a resume for a lot of people, especially for those of us who actually want to go the route of entrepreneur, somebody who actually doesn't, if I get out of the military, maybe I'm done taking orders. Maybe I feel like, you know what, I want to go into business for myself. Is that addressed in the 12-hour?
No.
It's not at all.
No.
See, and that's
what we have financial brokers that are veterans themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So when they hear stuff like that, they're like, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing a small business loan? What's that?
Right.
Did you know we can get veteran small business loans for X, Y, and Z. You just got to come up with a business plan. A 12-hour block of instruction isn't going to teach you how to develop a business plan.
Yeah.
But." Like I said, we have a whole network of dudes that's all they look at every day is these business plans drawn out. So they can teach you those skills.
It seems like it's sort of pitching the idea that when you get out, you need to be a drone. You need to work for someone. It's not pushing the idea that, okay, you got out, you followed our command for this amount of years.
Yeah.
Now you have the option. I don't know if you know this. You don't have to do that anymore. You can go and create your own company. You can go and make a business. You don't have to go into work for someone else.
For sure.
That doesn't seem like it's really being
Addressed.
No,
not at all.
And that is to me, that's such a disservice. You got to figure. I mean, how many people each year would you say come out of the military? I mean, how many people let's just say Arizona? How many people in Arizona do come out of the military every year?
Oh, it's gracious to say thousands.
Thousands.
If not tens of thousands.
Okay, so
and Arizona is one of those places to where everybody's emigrating right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
A good big part of it for me, after I had gotten done working at the DoD, I had taken a few years and worked at a bunch of these electric vehicle OEMs.
Cool.
Original equipment manufacturers. Arizona is like the motor city of EVs right now. You have Lucid down there in Casa Grande. You have Nikola Motors that develops electric semi-trucks. You have Electromechanica over at Gateway Airfield that does small, compact electric vehicles. And all of these people are moving into the valley now.
Yeah.
And like I said, those are all job resources. Those three companies that I just named, I've put people there specifically because of networking.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sure. There's amazing opportunity in Arizona, and like you said, everyone is moving here. All the big companies, and I mean, I know there's big tech. There's a whole bunch of stuff coming here. It's just open opportunity for anybody, especially people coming out of the military. You do at least have that to your name.
Exactly.
It shows that you can at least stay with something for more than a year. It's more than most of us can.
Yeah, and I think there's a level of discipline with people coming out of the military that's difficult to find with civilians as well.
Very difficult to find.
And that's always a good selling point. It's just loyalty.
There's a strong argument to be made that someone coming out of the military will have a much more well-rounded sense of skills than someone coming out of college. Someone coming out of college is good at like two things, and that's all they've thought about for the last 4 years. So 4 years of college, you've got a major. Let's be optimistic and say you have both a major and a minor, so you know how to do two things. You're all but useless, and I get it. It is what it is. We all go to. I mean, I went to college. It's not mandatory, but it sort of kind of is type of thing.
Oh yeah.
But the military, you do have discipline. You have a lot of things that, as a business owner, I mean, that's what I would look for. I wouldn't really care what a person's major was.
Yeah, especially if it's like communications or something like that, something broad, general.
Business management.
It's a nice. When I go on the subject of college, people, I tell them it's a nice stepping stone. It does,
absolutely,
like the military, it does show that you can at least go somewhere and finish a goal. You can at least, but it's sort of today how people from our parents' generation viewed high school. It's like, okay, you finish high school, that means you can. Now that means literally nothing. Like you finish high school, that means nothing at all. No one even don't even come in and apply if that's all you have. If you have high school plus 4 years in the Army, high school plus 4 years of college. Okay, well now I can at least get in a room with you and have a conversation.
Absolutely.
But it's a stepping stone, and you have to have a plan on how to. And that's why I brought up social media, and that is one area where I think it's a real disservice to not tell these guys that look, you're stepping out into a world where if you want to really and truly, regardless of what you want to do, if you want to sell yourself as either a business owner or an incredible employee to someone who owns a business, and you have some things, even treating social media kind of like your resume while you were in the Army. I know people who have done that. I've seen people who have used their social media, they'll have maybe just anything from cool tank videos or whatever, but a lot of times people will leverage social media as their resume.
Yeah.
And that way writing a resume is not as intensive. I can also show you this. Okay, here's what I built during my time here. Here's me working on a jet. Here's me, anything like that.
Yeah.
So that's, to me, that should definitely be included in some time in that that 12 hours, that window to get them out.
That small block of instruction.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I have a question. So on Valor's website, do you have the ability to have like a Dropbox where someone can share their actual resume with you guys and you guys can look it over, send it back?
Good question.
Or is it always like the in-person? Because I feel like if it's always the in-person,
No.
you're
Just
limited.
Go to that contact page.
Okay.
That gives us your email. And like I said, we get emails all the time, and it can run the gambit for, anything from I need help writing a resume to, hey, I'm not going to make groceries this month. How can you help? Which it happens. And we've partnered up with a bunch of private food banks and some of these like Mother Nature's Farm just down the road right there.
Yeah,
they've been gracious about a 10-pound bag of fruit, and just getting 30 to 40 veterans and their families just fruit. And it just goes a long way. And they weren't going to use it, or they were about to throw it out, and now it's being applied to something good.
It's such an important demographic of people to make sure are comfortable coming out of service, especially coming out of service, because they're going to impact the people going in. And correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I heard this, don't know. There is a difficulty getting new people into service. Is that true to what's happening right now? Is there some kind of maybe it was pertaining to special forces, but I heard there was a shortage of applicants.
Well, yeah, when you talk about special forces, you're talking about the best of the best and a whole, myriad of qualifications just to even be considered for something like that. But in the military itself, recruiting now is just so hard up on numbers and individuals, because they look at it as, I'm going to go to war. Or, if I sign over my life, I'm going to get 3 years of somebody yelling at me. Which, I mean, I was a child.
Is that untrue? Because when you say that to me, that is what I think of. If you told me, hey, you're going to sign up for the military, what do you expect to happen to you?
Yeah.
It'd be like someone's going to drill me, and I'm probably going to go over, I don't know.
I mean, you could. Like when I was in basic training, I had one drill sergeant that he never raised his voice, but he would make you feel terrible if you were to mess up. It's just about delivering that message. But when you have this generation that they've been wrapped in bubble wrap of, this is how the world works, and then they get out into the real world and their minds are just blown. And in the military, it's even more of a shell shock, because you'll take individuals that have been bubble wrapped like that, and then you'll have other individuals that are 17 on their second marriage with their third kid, and those two will be roommates, and you'll be like, those are two completely different worlds.
Yeah. Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah. So, actual example and my first roommate, 100%. Like,
he was 17.
He
and
was
had
17. He had
ex-wife.
2 babies' mamas, and he had 3 kids.
At 17.
At 17.
And this was when you first got to
Wow.
basic.
Yeah, and so I was 18. This is 2007. Like, blew my mind, because like I grew up out here. Like, it's not uncommon to have like 16 and pregnant, but like
2?
Yeah, 17 and 3 of them. Come on, dude.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. So you take those 2 different cultures, and one of those cultures needs it by necessity. That other culture just watched Black Hawk Down when he was really high and ended up there. Again, not a personal experience by any means, but so now you take this generation to where they're not watching Black Hawk Down. They're not. All they know is what the world is telling them the military looks like, and they're like, that's not for me. I'll go to college.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's very hard up on recruiters, and I I am never envious of a recruiter and the things that they have to do to make sure that those kids are taken care of, from application to processing to their actual ship out date.
Right.
You know, it's difficult.
How many soldiers like come out of theater and still have the itch and go back as civilian, like mercenary contractors?
Not so much mercenaries, but definitely like third-party contractors.
Okay.
Is there a large market for that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What, like as private security?
Private security, you know, logistical support.
Huh. That seems like a pretty decent transition, actually.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're not letting go of your habits.
I hear that. I don't know. You could say better than I could, but the money's not terrible either.
The money is fantastic, and it used to be the benefit. There was no benefits to it, and then that changed, and the benefits are there. So it's almost better being that third party contract in a foreign area. You know, you're talking about, you know, security guards,
right?
Truck drivers. I have one friend, man. He is a generator repair mechanic, right?
Okay.
And he in the Army, he was a generator repair mechanic, and then he went and worked for one of these third party contract companies. He does 6 months in some terrible place. He comes back for 3 months and does another 6 months. And that's his whole contract right there. And he's making decent money.
Yeah.
Like Ford 350 money. Like,
good for him.
Yeah.
I knew one guy, he was military. The only person I know who actually did what you just said. He was, and this was back when he did this right when Colorado legalized weed. He was in his active service, then he got out, then he got contracted by this dispensary in, I think it was Boulder, and he just drove around strapped guarding these weed dispensers because they were apparently they were getting like seriously robbed every like other weekend, like at gunpoint by trucks. Like these convoys would get robbed because they're just hauling cash. Wow. So they started, but he told me he's like this is, they're paying it because they pay all cash. Yeah, and he's like they pay me every week. It's unbelievably good.
Wow.
But that's the only example I've ever known someone doing something like that. But that's seems like it'd be the easiest, most seamless transition if you could take whatever it is you'd been doing for 4 years. Because I mean, growing is tough. I'm not afraid of it, but I'd rather use what I'd been doing for 4 years than just kind of discard it and try to go be a plumber or something when I got back.
And there are some people that do that. They're just like, you know, 3 years, I've been there, I've done that, I've owned it. Now I need to go do something else.
Yeah.
And you got to ask those hard questions of what are you going to do?
Yeah.
How do you plan on doing that? You know, like I said, for me, I barely messed with a computer up until 2015. And now, you know, that's all I do is IT. You know, but I had to ask myself, how am I going to get to that point?
So you had no IT in the military experience?
No. This was all after the military. This was after law enforcement.
Good for you, man. That's right, because you came back. Let's talk about that, because I'm curious about that. We had a little talk before we were on the air.
Yeah,
so transitioning from the military to law enforcement, not as easy as people think it will be.
It is.
Tell me why.
Bear. So okay, we'll compare and contrast. So in the military, I'm 18. I have my birth certificate. I have my social security card. I'm good for, you know, a general physical. I could probably get 2 basic training within that week. Okay. It's just as easy as throwing that down, writing some stuff up, peeing in a cup, and then catching a flight out to a basic training. Okay. For law enforcement, you need to go to a law enforcement academy, basic officer course. Okay.
Which one did you go? You were which department?
Oh, so at that time I was with DPS, Department of Public Safety, state trooper.
Okay.
They have contracts with all the state sponsored academies because they are the state of Arizona. So I went to Southern Arizona Law Enforcement Academy down in Tucson. SELETC is the acronym for it. You'll hear that all the time. Which was a real cool place because it was in between 2 prisons. You had the state prison, you had the federal prison, and then
did you say that's where everybody gets executed or something? Where did you tell me that was happening? Florence.
That was Florence.
Florence is where that's where they.
Yeah.
That's where Border Patrol processes everybody that they catch. So that's always a good thing to remember when you're driving through Florence, because you're like,
don't pick
that's
up
where people
hitchhikers.
die, and that's where people come into the country. Blows your mind. But yeah, no. So I went down there in Tucson. But just to get to that point,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I had applied with every agency that, you know, Arizona had offered.
Yeah.
So it was, you know, Department of Public Safety, Mesa PD, Gilbert PD, Chandler PD, which, man, I was so hurt that I couldn't get on the Chandler Police Department, man, because I was like, I grew up here, I know all the areas. It's almost like cheating when you're like, I could totally work this.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we don't have enough room. And when I say they don't have enough room, I mean these agencies, they're hiring in high demand, but they only have these state-sponsored school slots. There's only a finite amount. So, like when we go to these testing sites, you'll do 1,200 individuals, 1,200 applicants per testing site.
Gotcha.
And of that 1,200, let's just say 800 pass the physical.
Yeah.
Okay. And of that 800, 600 pass the written. And the written is pretty much like high school vocation kind of stuff.
Okay.
Okay. So now you're 2 steps ahead of everybody else that just started from that 1,200.
Yeah.
So you're at 600. And then you go and do a review board where you meet with a bunch of senior officers and they ask you a whole bunch of questions. And sometimes it's real casual and sometimes it's a firing squad of like, you're doing this, what happens? You're doing this, what happens? What do you plan to do if this happens? And you're just like, I have no idea. No one's ever taught me how to. And again, that's another one of those resources. Like I have an officer right now with Mesa PD, or formerly with Mesa PD, that he developed study guides of, hey, this is what's going to happen when you go to these boards. They're going to ask you questions like this, and this is how they want to see you answer it. Because nobody will tell you. It's a big kept secret.
Yeah.
So if you do pass that board, and let's say we're at 600 now, we're probably at 400 that have gotten past that board. Of those 400, you go into background, okay? And they give you this Bible-size amount of paper, and you write your whole life story from where you live, how many years you've lived there, people that you've known that knew you at that address. There's 100 to 200 questions just about your daily life. And it could be something as basic as, have you ever committed a crime? Have you ever driven drunk? Have you ever thought you may have driven drunk but didn't? And you're like, what?
Yeah. Man, I'd be afraid to answer some of those questions.
Like, you have never felt...
And a polygraph, you said, too, right? So they're going to quiz you on this.
After that, yeah.
After that.
You turn that in. They go and do their background investigation. They make some calls. They call your employers. They're like, hey, does this dude really work here? Does he really make $15 an hour doing this, and that? And it's just all an integrity check.
Yeah.
Of just make sure that everything that you wrote on there is exactly what you wrote on there.
Yeah.
And then from that 400, you got 200 now. And those 200...
Because 200 lied.
Yeah.
Or something.
Something. 200 didn't know their neighbor of the house that they lived in when they were 2. Like...
Wow. Okay.
And it's not that's an extreme scenario, but, I mean, some of those questions, it's a bear.
So then you do the poly.
So then you do the poly. And every poly that I have ever done always starts the same way. Is there anything in this packet that you have lied about? So now your 200 becomes about 50.
Right, yeah.
Somebody embellished something, and it could have been something stupid, as I make $14.28, not $15 an hour. So,
Sure.
So yeah, now you pass background. Now you pass polygraph. And of those 50 are waiting for school slots in that pool. And then the school itself, let's say, has 3 to 4 openings for that agency. Now you got to pick the best 4 out of that 50. Who is the top of that? And those are the ones that go to school. Again, nobody taught me that. So as I'm applying for all these agencies...
School... In what regards? What kind of police academy? Okay, so you graduated from the police academy. That matters now once you've passed all the rest of that from those remaining 4 or 5 names.
Yep, those are the ones that go on to the police academy.
Okay,
and then that becomes its own process too, because you're talking about a 20-week course, and after about week 3, they start dropping people like flies of people that couldn't handle it, of people that maybe still in background and found something about their background, or, the rules of life change. A big example for me was I had a guy, he got a underage DUI when he was 18. Mm-hmm. He was open about it. He told his agency. Agency was cool with it. It wasn't a negating factor. It's a misdemeanor. Mm-hmm. When we were at school, the standards had changed, and they said absolutely no DUI convictions whatsoever. Mm. That dude was gone.
Got it. And he had
just,
already made it through all that.
He already made it
to the academy.
He was like 3 weeks from graduating, and now he's gone.
Wow.
That stinks.
Now, don't get me wrong. Like the agency itself were really cool, and they were like, "Hey, you know, standards change, and that happens." So now he's a corrections officer. Like,
got it.
You know,
but to choose, I mean, part of me thinks I'm happy that this is as rigorous as it is, because I think there's
so high stress.
There's a big misconception that people think, especially the whole defund the police group. They think that it's just anybody walking in can just do this.
And 100%, I thought that was the same way too. Coming out of the military,
you thought it would probably be like,
I'm gonna just go sign this up. I'm gonna go take a PT test, and they're gonna tell me, "Hey, this is what you start the academy." Mm-hmm. And the first time that I had gone through the process was Scottsdale PD, and they were like, "Thanks. If we're interested, we'll call you." And I'm like, "But I did everything."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Yeah, but you got to understand. Out of that pool of 50, we had to pick 2.
Yeah.
You weren't the top 2," which is also humbling too, because
to hear that, yeah. Oh yeah.
You're like, I feel like I'm the top 1%. You are not.
Yeah, well, we all kind of tend to think that. Yeah. But it's it's reassuring to see that it's actually quite vetting, and that hopefully it does produce the most responsible, level-headed people, because that's a high stress job. I mean, that's
absolutely.
I don't know if I don't have experience in either department, but it seems like it'd be as high stress as the military. Especially now.
It's far more high stress.
You think it's more high? Interesting. Why?
Absolutely. So I took bombs apart, right? In the military.
Yeah.
Okay. So my job consisted of one thing. Okay. Keeping that bomb from exploding. Okay. If it explodes, I'm dead. No longer my problem.
Yeah.
If it doesn't explode, cool. On to the next. Super easy. It's just basic.
Super easy.
just stay alive. Okay. If you tuck that in your mindset, you're just, the stress goes away, because it's either I'm wrong or I'm dead.
Great.
Now with law enforcement, it's I'm wrong. I'm going to prison. I'm getting sued. I could have said the wrong thing to the wrong person.
I shut down my family's company.
I'm gonna have people find out who I am and follow me home. Like, it's
get
so
doxxed.
Yeah, exactly.
Get what?
Doxxed.
What's that mean?
It's where they put all your information out the internet for people to come after you.
Yeah.
Seriously?
God, it's super common, especially with social media. Like,
yep.
we had an entire class in the academy, and it was just like, get rid of your social media. Don't let anybody know you exist.
Wow. Okay, so that's the that's the police that's their perspective on social media. Don't have a public.
No, because that is just an open wound that somebody will pick at.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's not common, but I've seen some of these, especially female officers. Mm-hmm. They rock social media.
Oh, absolutely.
I've seen some of those really attractive female cops. They'll have like a 200,000 follower Instagram page where they're just doing the police. And does it comes down to the department whether or not they're cool with you doing that? I mean, would there ever be a situation where they're like, nope, get rid of it, or we'll get rid of you?
Oh, absolutely, because everything that they do, you are a reflection of that department.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, there's some of them, man, that I even follow, that I've become friends with, and they're powerlifter competitors that also happen to be
cops, police
officers.
Right.
But you'll look at their page, and it's just nothing but powerlifting stuff, and then there's like 2 pictures of them in uniform, and you're like, wait, what are you doing again?
Ronnie Coleman was a cop.
Yeah.
It's funny, yeah, because it doesn't have to be you said you have to eat, sleep, breathe. It has to be your whole MO.
It's got to be your whole life, because...
So you don't think there's a way for it to be disconnected? Sort of the leave work at work thing? It's got to be...
There can be, but I'm here to tell you it's hard.
Is it?
It is hard. Just to turn that brain off. Because that is how you live... For day in, day out, as soon as you clock on, you have that mentality. Mm-hmm. You're always looking for everything that becomes a threat or becomes an emergency or becomes a situation. Mm. When you're sitting down, you're looking at exits. When you're looking at people, you're looking at, hands and face tattoos. You're looking at, hey, have I arrested that guy before? Stuff like that. Like in Sierra Vista, where I was for the DOD.
How long were you in the, not the service, how long were you a police officer?
About 5 years.
5 years. Oh, okay. Well, yes. Decent little stint, yeah.
But you find yourself always seeing people as the worst case scenario.
because you see the worst case scenario.
Exactly.
And that's what a lot of people don't appreciate enough about first responders in any capacity is you see the worst side of humanity.
Absolutely. And so when it comes to that, and it just starts to eat at you because that's all you see. And some people, they learn to cope with it. Me, I was like, this is not for me. This is...
After 5 years, you made it. Was there something that made you really decide that?
Yeah. So I had worked for a certain individual that they worked within the attorney's office, and that attorney's office greeted me almost every day with, "I'm going to have your job." And it was,
interesting.
That's such like the best way to greet an employee is, "I'm gonna fire you today," and you're like, oh, "Are you?"
Okay.
So and you make that face right there. It's just like
toxic.
What? Who says
that?
A
little, definitely outside of our wheelhouse.
Exactly, and it's and like you said, it's toxic. It eats at you because that's how you go home and you're like.
Any particular reason why this individual would? I mean,
because that is how they stay above, or that is how they survive.
Okay.
Is if something happens and you make a mistake, you're human. You're going to make a mistake.
Right.
When you do, you're gone. And that is a standard of perfection that nobody can meet.
No.
So it doesn't really bode well with a lot of people.
It's also something people in civilian life don't think about enough, and it's how we were always raised. Our father was always look. It doesn't matter if the cop is a dickhead. Treat him with respect. Treat him like he's having a very bad day, because most likely his day is going weirder and worse than yours will ever go.
Exactly.
Like, most likely, you have no idea. He could have just had a fist fight 10 minutes before pulling you over for rolling through the stop sign.
Exactly.
Like, don't just do what he says. If anything weird happens, that's what the court's for. So
you just handle it on the back end.
Exactly. If he arrests you, fine. We'll deal with it later, and we'll find out if you did something wrong.
Exactly. Just deal with it on the back end.
People are so, and that's what I hate. The thing I hate the most about this on this topic, I hate people who like pull out their phones and film the cops, and then try to like school the cop on the whatever. Like, you pulled me over for speeding. Okay, well,
you were speeding too, and it's like,
you had to speed up to catch me, so you were speeding. Yeah, no, and so it's, for me, it's always much smarter, much safer, and just more respectful to be respectful.
Exactly.
Just treat it like it's an authority figure, which it is. If you get arrested, if the cop is, I had a cop pull my mom out of the car and give her a sobriety test at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
2 streets over for no reason. Called the sergeant. The sergeant got involved. It was a whole thing. But point is, it didn't matter. She got out of the car. She was walking in the sidewalk in the middle of the day. She's like, I haven't drank in 30 years. I don't understand why I'm doing this. But the cop made her do it, and she's like, all right, well, that's fine. And then took the ticket and left. And then it got resolved afterwards. That's how you handle that sort of thing. You don't yell and scream and film and all the stuff people I just see. I don't like it. It's not the right way to do it.
No. But that's the way that society sees it, because that gets the most attention.
When were you in this? When did you stop being a police officer? How long ago?
2017.
2017. Oh, okay. So you missed. All right. Well, you missed all of the 2020 pandemic, George Floyd, all of that kind of stuff that impacted police departments all over the country. I know.
On the law enforcement side, yes.
Okay.
On the National Guard side, no.
So you were still in the National Guard when that happened?
Yeah, so...
Did that impact your day-to-day in some way when that... I mean, the whole nation seemed like it was upside down.
It was so crazy during the pandemic, and during those particular events of, the rioting and the protesting of, cop in action. Mm-hmm. And they had the National Guard going out doing patrols down Central. And you're talking about a whole bunch of, kids that are either in college or just got out of high school that are walking around now with an AR-15 down Central Avenue, telling people, hey, you need to go home. And it's like, that's the wrong way to do it. Like,
now I'm confused. I'm sorry. The kids carrying the AR-15s were in the service with you.
National Guard, yes.
Then in the National Guard, was there, because we had a curfew. Did we have a curfew?
Yeah, we had a 10 p.m. curfew.
We did, didn't we?
Yeah.
I forgot that happened.
So
it wasn't for long. How long was that in effect?
A couple weeks.
Yeah. Right. It was when all the riots were happening and everything, right?
It was concurrent with everything that was going on between the work from home and the protests.
Yeah. I remember Phoenix had a couple days where, because we have friends in the service as well, and he told us, okay, don't go to Phoenix.
Yeah.
Do not go to Scottsdale. Do not go, just kind of chill.
Go to Scottsdale, yeah. Like we did that, was it the Biltmore Fashion Square?
Yes.
That got broken into.
They got broken into.
By, supposedly other media influencers.
I said, who was it?
It was Jake Paul.
Jake Paul.
Jake Paul, yeah.
That was the first time I think I ever heard his name. And
Same.
someone's like, oh, he's going to fight.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? They're like, isn't that the guy who just broke into the mall or something? They're like, yeah, that's him. He's famous. I'm like, great. Yeah. That's stupid what people do to get famous. But yeah, that was a weird.
It was a weird time because you had that, and then you had parts of the National Guard that were out and they were at the testing sites directing traffic. And that's the weirdest thing, is to see a soldier that's kitted from boots to Kevlar to helmet, and he's drawing you in a line how to serpentine around to a testing site, but you got to stay in your car.
Oh, COVID testing site.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
And then the food banks were getting hit hard.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
And just people would just roll up and
I can't even imagine the difficulty for your people. I mean, for people coming out of the service during that time.
Yeah.
I mean, they said, what was was there there was probably an increase in, I know there was an increase in suicide rates, drug overdose, alcohol related deaths.
Yeah. The biggest one for me was definitely the drug overdose and the suicides.
Can you pull that up? Is there, I don't know, some kind of a stat on drug overdose during 2020? Pandemic drug overdose rate. The rate I know went up. I don't know by how much.
And that was a big thing, is because like I said, I was in the National Guard for a little while too, and going through some of these classes, and they were like, opioid awareness, how to identify somebody that's got opioid dependency, and I had never had that brought up, of, hey, somebody you're sitting next to is probably popping pills and you didn't know it.
It's funny because to somebody, if you were to ask a normal person, hey, how do you tell if someone's on opiates? They'd be like, I don't know. Are they hunched over under an overpass?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Is that how I tell? But no, everybody has been abusing them. Let's see if does it pull up right away? I would have thought it would have been like right at the...
With your nonprofit, what was the biggest change that you noticed post-pandemic?
Post-pandemic was the biggest change, was trying to get people out of their house after everybody had gone. So... lost my train of thought there. Because after a year, stuff started opening back up with restriction, but they kept telling everybody.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
You go.
There was a 30% increase from 2019 to 2020 of March in drug overdose related deaths in the United States of America. 30%. Yeah, that is not a number to scoff at.
No,
that's a lot.
That is significant. Mm-hmm. And it's just so crazy. But
I'm sorry. Continue though. That was a good question.
Opening it up with these restrictions of everybody's got to be masked, everybody's got to be 6 feet apart. We were going to Arizona Rattlers games, arena football, and we were all masked up, and we all had to sit 2 seats in distance from each other, which is real weird because I have 1 million kids. So when you bring 4 kids and you to a sporting event and you take up an entire row now,
you all had to sit. You and your kids all had to sit.
It made them feel safer by skipping 2 seats. So. And it's
2020 hindsight, the way you look back on this, it is kind of fun to laugh at it. Just I don't know, it's so weird the way we handled that.
Yeah. So as an outsider, especially an outsider that's been stuck in their home, they're like, I'm not going to chance it.
No.
So it was it was pulling them back out, and sometimes it was like pulling teeth, man. Of hey, it's not the apocalypse. It was just an event that happened.
Yeah.
Now we need to go back.
You need to go back to life. You have to worry about you.
Yeah.
And I tell that to people a lot when they get, even not just related to this, but related to anything, big world. When people get all upset about who's in charge and what's happening, I'm like, yeah, I get it. Be educated on it, but focus on you. How's this impacting you? Really, how has this impacted you on your day to day? Are you making less money? Are you less successful because of what the president said or did? Exactly. Probably not. Most likely, maybe gas prices went up for you or down, but that's really it. You're getting really angry and spending a lot of your time and energy. We have family members that were like this. I'm like, you need to get off social media and stop doing that on there. You need to focus a lot more on other things of life.
Exactly.
It's just not healthy. It's a bad way to live. Yeah, I want to get back just to kind of wrap things back around to specifically your program.
For sure.
First
For
of all,
sure.
where can people find it? Just so they know.
I'm all over social media. So you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us on Instagram. Just look Valors Veterans Community.
Valors Veterans Community for all those platforms. That's where people go.
Yep. Okay. You know, if you go into the search bar of Facebook and you just type in veterans and Arizona, I guarantee I'll pop up.
Okay.
But if you're not on social media, you can go over to our website. You can sign up we have an email newsletter for people that don't do the social medias, and that's got a whole list of the events that we have for the month. Or if nothing else, if you don't want to be connected electronically, we meet over at Black Rifle Coffee on every other Sunday at 9 a.m. They just had an amazing grand opening that we got invited to. It was a whole lot of fun. We did a touch a truck. The kids got to do face painting and costume contests.
Cool.
But yeah, we meet over at Black Rifle right now, 9 a.m. every other Sunday. So not this Sunday, but the next Sunday.
Which Black Rock? Do you know the
Black Rifle?
Or Black Rifle.
Black Rifle. There's only one. It's on 44th Street in Phoenix.
That's why I was like,
so
I was confused.
you got to brave Phoenix to get over there. But once you're there, you're amongst friends.
Very cool. Excellent. So that's where people can go. And you would, if they go to the website, you would recommend going to the contact page?
Yeah, just go over to the contact page. Scroll on down.
There it is.
There it is.
Phone number, email.
Yep.
Facebook and Instagram Connect.
Yep. And I know it says office, but that's a cell phone. So even if you have, just interaction shyness, you can text that number and somebody will be a hold of you.
That's awesome.
Excellent.
Thank you again for coming on, bro. I
Thank
really
you guys
appreciate
for inviting
it.
me. This is awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks
for what you do too. I think I speak for all of us where, we could use more people that are involved in this area, and it's a huge need, and it's awesome what you do. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Definitely. Thanks, bud.